Hello, Neil.
Hi,
Welcome.
how are you?
I am doing okay. How are you doing this evening in Wrexham?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's obviously Friday evening over here. I've just got in from doing a few chores, bit of shopping, picking the kids up, dropping kids off, and now I'm looking forward to having a chat with you for the next hour or so.
All right. Well, so you're doing super dad stuff over there, and I'm just adding 1.5 more lights to my setup over from the right hand side. That's all I've done for the day. So I've been completely unproductive. Welcome to Teach Me How to Wrexham coming on. You will be the first Wrexham player that we have on here. So insert the round of applause that are going on right now. You can't hear them, but everybody watching the video will hear the round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on here. We like to dig a little deep, get to know our friends, our family, our new extended Olive Garden family across the pond or across the sea. First and foremost, who is Neil Roberts?
Oh, okay. A bit of a big question to begin with, but no, I guess. Well, I'm a local boy, so born and bred in Wrexham. Very proud Welshman at the same time as being proud to be from Wrexham. Yeah, I'm one of three boys that grew up locally, maybe 10 minutes walk from the stadium itself, from the racecourse ground. Um, Very fortunate that both my parents were keen enthusiasts from the football world. My father played a little bit, sort of semi-professional, and my mum also played when she was younger as well. So it definitely, it was definitely in the genes, so to speak. So as I say, one of three brothers. I'm the middle of the three, and my eldest brother was probably the better player out of the three of us. Younger brother, I got to play with Stephen, my younger brother, for Wrexham in later life. But yeah, as a youngster, just grew up playing local football for a team called Garden Village. Came through their ranks and then was spotted about the age of 12 and asked if I would go in and train and play for Wrexham's youth teams. So that was well, it didn't take me long to say yes to that. So ended up kind of spending it was a Monday and a Friday evening training with them, and then playing games on a weekend. So yeah, I enjoyed that, and it kind of, I think for me, it took sort of it took the sort of center point of my life away from maybe the academic route in school.
Mm,
So I didn't do particularly well in school because I was solely focused on becoming a professional footballer, and thankfully it came true. So that's kind of a snapshot, very quick.
yeah. Yeah, I like that. So all you youngsters out there, stop doing your homework, stop doing school. If you can just have the talent of Neil Roberts, you're going to be okay. You're going to make it.
I think, yeah, I think talent is a very small part. I think the obviously the dedication,
Mm,
the attitude, and the biggest part of it is luck, because you need to be in the right place at the right time.
yeah.
You need things to go for you, whether it be the right person watching you at that moment and maybe scoring, and yeah, there's a lot of things that need to fall into place. And yeah, I was very fortunate in that respect to get the opportunity, and then it was sort of my sole focus was to kind of progress my career with Wrexham.
Oh yeah. And that obviously the hard work has paid off. You created those wonderful opportunities that your hard work then could be showcased and that people could see the work and dedication that you put in. And if we reverse it, the time clock
Yeah,
just a little bit. So young Neil
yeah,
is a small Wrexham lad, and
mm,
he's going to his first Wrexham game.
yeah.
Do you remember your first Wrexham game that you went to, or the first exposure to the Wrexham team?
Um, well, the first exposure to the Wrexham team was during the summer holidays. So my mum worked next door to the next door to the racecourse stadium
Oh,
at the college. So she worked in the college as a university as it is now, and yeah, we used to take a football with us with a packed lunch, and while she was in work, we would just spend hours, the three of us, kicking a ball about. And unfortunately, at that time, they used to train just outside the racecourse ground, so we were able to watch. There was no sort of no major interest in the players, let's put it that way. In those days, there was obviously fans, but as you see it today, it was kind of the other end of the spectrum. So yeah, we were very lucky, I think, that from an early age we were exposed to what is now obviously a global sort of interest in a football club, and then going to the matches. My dad took the three of us, three young boys, to watch a number of games growing up. The one challenge we had as sort of playing in the local leagues as a youngster was that our fixtures would sometimes be Saturday afternoon, which would then obviously clash with the first team games at Wrexham. So yeah, as and when we could, we were at the games. The biggest one that stands out is obviously the Arsenal win in the FA Cup.
Oh,
so
yeah, you were there for that.
I was there for that. I was very lucky. I was on the Cop with my friends, and I've actually got a picture of the group of friends I was with, all stood on the Cop.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So that's
maybe you can share that with us. I don't know.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I'll send it here, and then you can post. You can do what you want with that. So it's yeah, it was probably the fact that we were able to sort of, I think, get a bit closer in those days to the players, and they're still very good now. It's still very much a family club, but I think that was the big draw for us, is that you could see the players outside as they do now and get autographs and things like that. So it just became sort of part of the norm, really, to go and watch Wrexham, and you'd get the same autograph every week. It didn't matter, So yeah, some great memories.
And so you were kicking the ball around, and is that area where you kick the ball around still exists now, or has that been paved over?
Yeah, no, it's actually a car park now. So
okay.
Where they used to train. So obviously, going back to sort of late 80s, early 90s, we didn't have a training ground, the football club. So they would literally train wherever they could find. So one of the areas was just outside the racecourse on the university field. So yeah, it was ideal. If you were a fan, you'd get to see and hear everything that went on in the build up to a game on a weekend, good and bad.
And was so pivotal for a young person like yourself, and most young kids, playing any sport, picture themselves being pro at some point in time. The foreshadowing for you as a young child playing out there to then fast forward into becoming a player. Was there any particular players that made an impact to you as a youth, or any events that kind of switched that trigger on where you said, you know what, no, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I think, well, from a very sort of young age, it was always Joey Jones. So
Joey Jones,
he's obviously a local icon. He's, he's somebody that I grew up as the same age as his son, and we used to play against each other. So I knew Joey. I've known Joey since I was, sort of 8-9 year old. So yeah, he was the main sort of man in terms of hero status, and still is to this day. And then some of the other players, I'd have to mention are the likes of Steve Watkin, got the winning goal obviously against Arsenal. Wayne Phillips, he was another sort of young Welsh North Walian who was coming through at that time, and Gareth Owen. So probably those three, and another one, Lee Jones as well, who was a centre forward who actually went on to sign for Liverpool. But yeah, there were 3 or 4 that really stand out. But above all them, sort of Joey Jones and obviously Mickey Thomas.
Yeah.
They're probably the 2 that are still to this day my sort of main heroes, if you like, for Wrexham.
So you've seen these players. You've got to go to the games. You get to know Joey Jones as a somewhat family member or something, because that's your friend's father.
Yeah. Well, he was. He was just somebody that, and he still is. He's somebody that he does know everybody.
Okay.
Everybody knows Joey, and he tends to know everybody as well. So, when we would have our end of season presentations, we would always ask for Joey. I think we got him a couple of times, and so I've got photos as a youngster being presented my end of season medal with Joey, which is it's super special. It is, and that's why. That's why he's considered to be probably one of the greatest players to have played for the club, but also the nicest person ever as well.
Just involved in the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And obviously there's no cameras going, there's no press that's saying, hey, we're doing this as a publicity stunt. That's just pure goodness and good-hearted person.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of somebody that you look up to, and I definitely did, and you want to emulate as best you can, or as close as you can, to how they behaved with young players, how they behaved with fans, and how they approached every game. It was always play the game as if it's your last one, sort of thing. So, I carried a lot of Joey's sort of morals, if you like, along with me on my journey.
Was that like a voice or something that you heard as you're making decisions? And
no, I don't think it was a voice. I think it's just experiences and moments in time that you see something happen, and I think it just things obviously stick with you, and for me it was important that I as an example, when I was an older professional at the football club, that I would make sure I knew all the youngsters and made sure that they were okay, So that was really important to me because it happened to me. So it's kind of roles reversal sort of thing, and I'm big on there being a certain number of senior professionals in the changing room who the younger players sort of lean on and will go to for advice and sort of support. Really, I think it's important that continues the cycle.
Yeah, and obviously, I'll ask you about your first stint at Wrexham for the people that don't know, and kind of the seniors that were there that welcomed you in. But before we jump into that, as a teenager, you said you got invited to come play for Wrexham. How did that happen?
Well, just again playing locally, and there was a scout at the game on this particular occasion. He was a really, really fabulous guy. His name was Cliff Sear. Okay. Now, Cliff Sear was the person who scouted Ian Rush for Liverpool. Well, in fact, for Chester, our sort of arch enemy. But he started off at Chester, and then he went on to become probably the greatest goal scorer of all time. So, so Cliff worked for Wrexham, and he was responsible for bringing me in. And that was sort of the progression then. You would either get released or retained at the end of every season. So it's, for those people that don't know it, football is a fairly cutthroat business, as nice as it is, and there's lots of good times. There's lots of negatives as well. So I think I was just, again, going back to my focus was making sure year on year I tried to improve and try to get better. And unfortunately, I stayed with the club through to my under 16 year, so the year that over in the UK that we leave school, and I was told that I'd been successful and that I was going to get offered a 2-year apprenticeship to play for the football club on a sort of permanent basis, if you like, for 2 years. So that was...
What is a 2-year apprenticeship? What does that encompass?
Well, basically, that's what it was called then. They changed it quite a lot now. There's a lot of rule changes come in, but just to kind of give a brief on it, it's basically when you leave, when you turn up on the 1st of July, you report for pre-season training. You're an apprentice. You will get I was given two professional players to look after. So I was responsible for their kit to make sure that was out every morning. I was responsible for making sure their boots were clean for every training session and for every match. Making cups of tea every morning for them.
Nice.
We would have to do jobs. So you might be cleaning the changing room one week. The next week you're sweeping the stands. The next week you're putting the divots back in the pitch for the groundsman. So it was a real sort of, in many ways, a fantastic experience into the whole operation of what goes on if you're behind the scenes of a football club. And I think the young players nowadays, they've kind of stopped doing it to a certain extent, which I feel is a shame, because I think it gives you a sense of sort of grounding for one, but also respect, because you're trying to get, your aspirations are obviously to get into the professional changing room. And in order to do that, there's a number of hurdles that you have to sort of climb over to get there. And it definitely gave me a real sort of, probably respect is probably the biggest sense of respect for players that have achieved sort of what they've achieved, if you like.
Oh yeah. And that literal work that you're putting in. And yeah. It had to have instilled also a really good perspective for the work that it takes just to put on a football game, outside of the players, the coaching staff, all the little pieces that it takes to put together to put on a match.
Yeah, well, again, it's, that the operation of a football club is huge, and in later life, I went on to be involved in that. We might come on to that, but yeah, it's from administration, that's huge. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle, if you like. Then you've got recruitment. Then you've got obviously kit and facilities. Then you start talking about, well, because you're the age of 16, you're still required to do education. So there's an education element to it. Then you've got player welfare, if there's any issues. Then you've got obviously the physio department, which has grown sort of enormously into a sports science arena now. And obviously then you've got all the information that's available now from a sort of analysis point of view as well. So obviously all those things, that the last few things that I speak about, the areas, they've come into the game late in the last few years. But just the whole operation of a football club is it's unknown, see. And yeah, that's the thing. You think you turn up and you give your ticket and you go through the turnstile, and you sort of forget about the hours and hours and hours of time that have gone into it, whether that's to engage with police, to engage with stewards, to ensure you're safe in the ground. You've got cafeterias supplying food. You've got all sorts of issues that people just miss, I think. And like for me, it always intrigued me, who books the buses for away games? It's who books the hotel, what we having for dinner. And it's kind of, I find that fascinating, about the logistics of everything, how it comes together.
Were you keeping your ear to that as a young player when you're, and if you remember whoever's boots that you were cleaning or shining to, do you remember your first two players that you took care of?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had, it was Tony Humes, who was the club captain at the time.
Oh, wow. You got the captain. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got the captain and I got the vice captain. So there was Tony Humes and there was Phil Hardy. So both sort of, Tony was very experienced centre half. He'd signed for Wrexham from Ipswich, a very, very hard man, but a fair man. And then Phil Hardy was sort of, I think he was probably 20, about 90, 20 at the time, but he was potentially he was going to be the next big thing, a left back, played for his country, played for Northern Ireland, and he was a very, very talented player. So I was super excited. I used to take pride, and it was a pleasure for me to clean their boots. It was something that allowed me to sort of, in many ways, build a bond with them. And, I'm still very close to both of those guys today. So I think
that is amazing. Oh, that is so cool. Well,
Yeah, yeah, it's special. Yeah, it's special.
do they still do that as part of the apprenticeship?
No, I don't think they do. No, I think they cut back a lot on what was and wasn't allowed. I mean, for me personally, like I said before, I think it's a fantastic opportunity for a young player, not only to get the grounding and the respect for the world that they've come into, but also to build relationships and be
Yeah.
able to speak with senior players and be able to converse. And that's probably the one of, alongside respect, it was the ability to have hold conversation with those sort of people that otherwise you might have been in awe of, and maybe it's gone into your shell. Whereas I used it to my advantage, I think.
Yeah, and it's not really forced so much that you have natural organic conversations that can come up because you're
Yeah,
interacting with them so often with so many things that you're doing. It's not just
yeah,
walking up to somebody and saying, "Hey, mentor me. Tell me all the stuff I need to know
yeah,
and
exactly,
so I can
exactly.
use
And
you."
well, that's it. And it's kind of like you say, it becomes a natural sort of benefit to doing what you're doing. You make them a cup of tea, and you'll spend 5 minutes talking about, perhaps at the time what they're going through at home or something like that,
Mm,
their children, their family life, even to the extent of, I think you become sort of trusted in that sort of in
yeah,
their sort of world,
yeah.
because especially if you do a good job for them, part of it as well is that at Christmas you would get a Christmas tip. So that was always a brilliant moment in our changing room because we were all young lads. I think I started off on £12.50 a week.
Not a lot.
So so not a lot at all, but I survived, and I used to have enough for a McDonald's at the end of the week, and that was sort of our treat, if you like, as young lads, on a Friday afternoon. But yeah, at Christmas, it would be a knock on the door, and they would start coming in, then the pros, and they would hand sort of little brown envelopes out to the young lads, and then we would compare who got what, and um, it was.
Who was the favorite? Who got the most?
No, I think there was a few that were really generous, but again, it was anything was better than nothing, and if you did the
Yeah.
job right, you got what you deserved anyway. And I think it's all sort of different pieces of the puzzle and learning curves, really.
Oh wow. And I imagine they're not doing that anymore either.
No, I don't think that they probably wouldn't be allowed to because of the sort of,
Oh,
if
there's
you
like
like.
laws around it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there'll be laws about have they pay tax on that and things. It's kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
benefit
Like
in kind, I think they call it. Yeah.
how much
So
did you tip him? Because there's a
yeah,
percentage of tax that needs to come out of
yeah.
that
There's
before.
there's
Yeah.
20% to be paid on that. So yeah, it's unfortunately, I think there's certain things that have happened that didn't need to happen, and they should have kept a little bit of the old, if you like.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like, I mean, speaking to you and this is my first time speaking to you. So
Yeah.
I'm this is my outsider's perspective, but such a good rounded head on your shoulder, a good person. You don't seem, full of yourself, or you don't seem like you're better than the people or the fans or anything. You're very grounded and well-rounded as an individual.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think the biggest thing is that where that's concerned is having a really really positive and supportive family first of
Mm,
all, and that's my mum and dad, my brothers, my extended family, and then a super group of close friends as well. So all my friends are Wrexham fans. So we've got 12 season tickets where we all sit together, and we if somebody can't go, the ticket stays in the group, and somebody from within your family, maybe your son, your daughter, your sister, your auntie, your uncle, they attend. So we're a very close knit group, and they wouldn't let me get above
yeah,
myself, anything
yeah.
like that, and neither did I want to. I think I experienced a lot of really really brilliant moments, but I was doing something that thousands and thousands of young Wrexham boys and girls wanted to do. So there's a responsibility that comes with that you have to remember where you've come from, I think. And I'll go back to Joey. Joey played European Cup finals and won them, and he never changed.
Mm,
So So I think I never got to any of those heights, but I like to think that I'm still the same person as I was sort of way back when.
Those heights, if memory serves me correctly, I believe somebody represented Wales a
Yeah,
few
yeah, I did.
times.
Yeah, 4 times. Yeah, four
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
which is super special. But I tend to I play it down a little bit, and the only reason for that is that I think it was a big part of my life. But yeah, I didn't play as much as I wanted to, so they were sort of cameo appearances, if you like, 5-10 minutes. But I still represented my country, and I'm
Yeah.
super proud of it.
How'd that feel the first time you stepped out on the pitch representing your
Unbelievable.
country?
Yeah, unbelievable because it was at the racecourse ground. It was 24 years ago next week. So it's the anniversary next week, and yeah, it was a really really brilliant moment because I had my family and all my friends there,
They were out
and
there.
they were out there, and I enjoyed every minute of being with the national team. And playing with some of my heroes.
What did your friends, what all your mates say? They did you hear them in the crowd
Yeah,
when you came on?
yeah. Well, you do, yeah. And it's funny because a lot of people ask that. Do you hear, your friends when you're warming up if you're sub or when you're playing? And yeah, you definitely do. Just because there'll always be one of them that shouts something that they probably shouldn't shout, and I won't go into it on here. But yeah, I'm really really lucky. I've got a great group of friends, and yeah, we're all Wrexham fanatics, and we go home every game and away when we can. So it's nice for me to be a fan now.
When you were on the apprenticeship,
Yeah.
how far into the apprenticeship was it until you came into a match?
So yeah, so what happens is you have the 2 year apprenticeship, and you then play for the under 18s. So
Okay, okay.
there's a youth team that's made up of first and second year apprentices.
So this is 95 when you started,
Yeah,
maybe?
this will be I left school 94 till 96.
Okay, okay.
So I had 2 years as an apprentice, playing in the youth team. I scored a lot of goals, and then if you did well in the youth team, we had a reserve team that played on a Wednesday afternoon. That that was a mix of youth players and the players that didn't weren't involved on a Saturday with the first team. So you'd come into contact. So I got into the reserves sort of sooner than I thought, and things sort of progressed from there. So at the end of the apprenticeship, or just before it ended, it was a bittersweet day because obviously I'd spent 2 years with this group of brilliant young men who were fantastic friends, and we were really really close. And then all of a
Became
sudden,
brothers and
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're reduced from 15 down to sort. I think there was six that got professional contracts. So you
Ouch.
lose nine. You lose nine of your best friends straight away. And yeah, that's the other side that obviously sometimes people don't see. And there's a number of those lads that were with me that I'm still in touch with, which speaks volumes for them, I think. And they weren't bitter. They wished everybody well. Got a good friend
Mm.
who's over in America who was a apprentice with me, and yeah, he actually went to the games in Philadelphia. So
Nice. Nice.
yeah, and he met a number of my friends. They took photos, got talking, and sent them back to me. So that was lovely. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That was
Um,
man, that had to feel good. Just bridging those
yeah,
two parts of your
yeah,
life together.
yeah, absolutely. And then again, when when I got told that I was getting offered a professional contract at the end of the apprenticeship, it was that was kind of again another sort of golden moment for me to sort of take stock and obviously celebrate and enjoy the moment. However, the sort of hard work then starts again.
How do
So
they let you
it's
know? Did they just did you get it in writing or did they pull you to the side? How are you told?
Yeah, so the manager of the first team, Brian Flynn, at the time, he
Brian Flynn?
yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he got us in individually into the office, and he went through it all with everybody, good and bad. So he did it very, very professionally. Even the ones that didn't get contracts, they were well respected. And if there was any support they needed after they left, then it was there for them. So that was nice. And yeah, he told me, and at the time he said to me that he had strong beliefs that I would go on and captain the club and play for my country. And he gave me, a real sort of belief in myself, which was never sort of something I had a lot of. And yeah, that was sort of the beginning of the next batch of hard work to try and prove myself the following summer as a young professional.
Wow, what a fire to light under you by Flynn. Just you're going to captain the team. You're going to represent your country. These things are going to happen. And to his credit,
well, they came true. Yeah, they both came true. But I think it's very good man management. He was the best manager that I've played for, and I think I think what he was very, very good at was sort of, like you said before, lighting the fire under you, knowing which sort of strings to pull, and it definitely worked for me. But that sort of first year as a professional, and they always tell you, a lot of the senior pros told me, it's the hardest year.
Okay.
Because you walk into this changing room of all these pros who've kind of played 2, 3, 4, 10 years as a professional, and you really need to become a man overnight. Ooh. So it was quite an intense environment, sort of sink or swim to a certain extent. And as much as I'd had experiences during my apprenticeship, being involved, being around all these people, it was a tough environment, but I enjoyed that. I thought that I was born for that sort of thing. I didn't want it to be easy. I wanted it to be tough, and I quite like the hard yards sort of thing as well. So,
and were you one of the few youngsters that were in there? Like, what was the mix of senior players? Or
there was probably, I think there was 5 that were all 17, nearly 18. Then there was probably 3 or 4 that were under the age of 20, something like that. And then the rest were all sort of mid-20s. So it was a big squad. I think there was probably 30, something like that in total. And it was a really nice mix of youth and sort of senior players. So good experience. And then obviously you've got with the youngsters, there's no fear. So you're sort of learning your way, but you're not. There's nothing that fears you. At least that's how I felt. And you'd look around and you'd think, well, actually, it's. I feel quite confident going into this game. When I started playing for the first team. So.
And so you're just waiting for your opportunity to get out there and show what you're made of. First match that you played in.
So before I got to my first game, I actually went and played. I went out on loan into the League of Wales. So they felt that I needed to experience some men's football as opposed to playing in the reserves, and it was an eye opener for me. So I went to a North Wales club called Bangor in the League of Wales, and it opened my eyes definitely. If you like, gave me a kick up the backside to work harder, to train harder, and to perhaps be a little bit sort of in the right way, a little bit more aggressive in my approach to what I was doing. So I came back to Wrexham after that loan, and fortunately it worked. I did a lot of training, a lot of sort of weight training and boxing training with Joey specifically, and a good friend of Joey's, a gentleman called Malcolm Purchase, who was quite terrifying, to be fair, because he was a bit of a punisher in the gym. So you always knew when you'd been in a session with Marley, you would struggle to sort of lift your arms up afterwards and
put a shirt on.
Absolutely. So, but it's what I needed, and I ended up enjoying it, to be honest. And then my opportunity came. I was in the squad for a game against Chesterfield at home, in 1997, I think it was, and I came on as sub for one of my heroes, Carl Connolly, who's one of the best players to play for the club, and I sort of, that was the sort of start of me being involved in the first team squad on a regular basis.
When that happened, when you hit the field, did you process it immediately? Like, hey, I'm actually playing for the team.
No, I don't think I did. I think it was just a sort of a natural thing for me. And then I think
everything
it was
you trained for. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think adrenaline. Obviously, you're sort of focused on doing well, making sure your first touch is good, not giving the ball away, that you don't really notice the crowd. And at that moment, I was in a zone sort of thing. I didn't really take it in, but afterwards, it was really special because I'd achieved that sort of my first step on the ladder to kind of running out for my hometown club, which is the most special thing that could happen to me from a work perspective.
And your family, your friends, your mates, they're in the crowd, everybody in the audience.
Yeah, everybody there. Yeah. So
what did they say to you after that? After seeing you in the colors and in the kit and everything.
Yeah, they've just always been supportive, and not always sort of they'll tell you when you need to be told that you didn't do well. So there's no there's no shrinking violets amongst my friends. It's quite clear that if you've had a bad game, they'll tell you you've had a bad game, and that's how I want it though. It should be like that. It's not, I don't want to be told I've done well when I know I haven't. So it's after that game, we had a few drinks together, and that was nice, and obviously my mum and dad and my brothers were there as well. So yeah, just quite an emotional moment as well. Not, I'm not going to lie, it was kind of a big thing in our household.
Did your mom, was she able to keep it together with the emotions of seeing her boy out there?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, again, she's just super proud. They're massively supportive, my parents, and they've put more effort in than I have in many ways, because they were the ones that got me to training on time. They were the ones that bought my boots, bought my kit. When I was injured, got me extra physio. If I ever needed anything or getting anywhere, they got me there. So you can't take that lightly. And I, being the father of 3 children myself now, I know exactly the amount of effort that goes into being a parent. So it's not easy, and I'll never forget that.
Oh, that's beautiful. And as a parent, as all those people that were above you, there's that old adage of people plant trees for shade that they'll never see because it's for the benefit of others. And
future generation.
Yeah, you're just getting blessed from people around you that are good mentors, great role models, supportive community that allowed you to then become that person. And spoiler alert, when your kid plays for Wrexham and the tables turn and you get to be on the opposite side. I mean, I'm fast forwarding, playing a little time travel here, but what was that like? Going through the experience yourself, having your parents there, and then your child, suiting up.
Yeah, I do often think about this because I don't think I ever realized, how special it would have been for my mum and dad. And you don't tend to talk about it either, because you're in the moment of talking about the game and what did he say to you? What did the manager say? And they're asking questions about the actual moment of me getting on the pitch, as opposed to maybe me saying, so how did you feel? What was it like for you? And I don't know. It's something that I definitely will ask him. You've kind of triggered something in me now that I think it's important that I do know whether they feel or they felt exactly how I felt when I witnessed, obviously, Mia doing what she's done for the football club, because that was emotion, it was pride, it was obviously love for my firstborn, and kind of in many ways. I'd like to think, my mum and dad were exactly the same again because of their granddaughter running out onto the pitch. So it was probably a bit of a deja vu moment for them. I would imagine, seeing her do that, and
At the
yeah,
race
we're
course, nonetheless.
at the racecourse as well. And it's yeah, for that to happen, for obviously it's not happened before for a father and daughter. I'm not sure at any clubs, if I'm honest. I'd have to check that before I make such a big statement. But I think it's probably pretty unique in itself that we've both gone through that sort of experience.
Oh yeah, and even if it's not the first, it's probably one of very, very few that
Yeah,
you'd have to really dig hard to probably find that. If it does exist, it might not. You might be the first that have done it.
It's probably a nice little challenge for one of your listeners, maybe.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
if they want to look into it, then tag me and let me know.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be great to find out. And so
Yeah.
that we can, and obviously it's been said before, but it'll be confirmed here. This is the first father-daughter
Exclusive.
the exclusive. So, so you get loaned out, you come back to Wrexham, and then you have a short stint at Wrexham, and you head to Wigan. So that
so basically, I got into the Wrexham squad when I was around 18. So 1996, 97 season.
Okay.
And then I was in and around the squad then and played sort of, I was involved probably 140 times, something like that, between 1996 and 2000. So I left in February 2000 to go to Wigan.
Wigan, yeah.
Yeah. And then I stayed at Wigan until 2004, December 2004. So I had 4.5 years there. I had a couple of loan moves in between. Whilst I was there, I went to Hull City,
Okay.
and I played for Bradford City as well. And then in 2004, I signed for Doncaster Rovers. So that kind of, I spent 2 years at Doncaster. That sort of fast forwarding brought me up to sort of the beginning of 2006-07 season, which is when I was asked to come back to Wrexham.
And you're coming back, and at this point in time, it's a different team than when you played there before.
Not completely, but there obviously a number of new faces in. But there were a few faces that obviously I knew, and I knew the manager really well, Dennis Smith, and his assistant Kevin Russell, and the captain Darren Ferguson was there. That there was a few players that I knew anyway. So it was a really easy decision for me to come back.
And you were playing now. When you came back, was your brother currently playing for Wrexham?
No, he'd actually left about a year before, and he joined the team that I left. So he went to Doncaster. So we played together there. So
okay.
So we have played at Wrexham together. Before I left for Wigan, we played together as a brothers, and then we played together again at Doncaster.
Oh wow!
So we
how special?
Yeah, very special, yeah. And he was well, again, a lot of the Wrexham fans that had seen my brother play, he was a very, very good player, a lot better than I was, and he was unfortunate with injuries, and eventually that took its toll on him, but on his career. But yeah, super player, and a great lad as well.
How does that come as you're progressing through your career, and when you're young, you said you felt and you were fearless, you felt invincible, or you go out there to when the injuries start to come, and you're fighting father time now, where you don't bounce back as quickly.
No, well, unfortunately, I in my first spell at Wrexham, had a couple of injuries, but nothing too serious. But then, fast forward 2006-07 season, I was really unlucky with a couple of injuries, and what happened was I ended up having cortisone injections.
Those hurt, don't they?
They do hurt, yeah, and I shouldn't really have done that. I should have let the natural sort of healing process, and I was never really sort of 100%, if you like, playing on my return. So at the time I wanted to get on the pitch, and the manager wanted me on the pitch, and you do what you think you've got to do. And it's hindsight's an amazing thing, and unfortunately, I didn't have enough of it then. So played whilst not 100%.
Has that kind of changed in the game where now there's more of that future thinking that, you let yourself heal, don't aggravate an injury or make it worse?
Yeah, well, there's a lot more knowledge now. There's a lot more knowledge in terms of, the physios, the medical department are kind of a lot more inept at what they're doing. And I think the other side of it is the sports science in terms of their knowledge. That has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
It's recovery times. It's individuals, how many steps they've taken. When are they at their maximum sort of CO2 level? What all these things weren't even thought of when I was playing. So I think I think it's a lot more obviously professional now in terms of how things are done. But there's a lot more care and attention towards the player, and not only his fitness, but his recovery if he is injured. So, they're very lucky to get what they get now, I think.
Yeah. And, you had to fight through those good days of where it was walk it off, it's there's pain, go walk it off.
Yeah.
Well, and so during that time, you go from Wigan, you loaned out a couple of spells at Doncaster, and obviously you have some good memories from those areas too. Are there any memorable games or memorable goals that really stand out? I mean, I'm talking outside of, that penalty versus Chester. Boo.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think, during my time at Wigan, as an example, there was a number of memorable goals that I scored, but one of them I scored against Manchester City, and we knocked them out of the cup. We won 1-0. So that was a big moment sort of for me. It was on television. So, I got a lot of coverage from that. So that probably is the one that stands out for me. But then on the flip side of that, when I was at Doncaster, we played Arsenal in the cup, and I hit the post with a penalty and missed the penalty. So you kind of, you've got to take the rough with the smooth, right? And unfortunately on that occasion, I fell short. So,
You still see the post sometimes and at night when you're sleeping?
No, do you know what? I tend not to reflect too much on what was or what could have been. I think, I think I've kind of, I've been guilty really of sort of parking the negatives, maybe too much as well. And I think I've found in later life how to maybe deal with some of those issues a bit better. And if you've watched the documentary, I allude to a couple of things that I had challenges with, in terms of my mental health. And I think those things are part and parcel of the game. I think you've got to be really, really strong-minded to deal with, a lot of the downs that we have as a professional footballer.
Yeah, and in life, the analogy to just everyday life, we all have those moments where we have those challenges, and it's so easy to be your own worst enemy and to be
absolutely.
the person that holds you back. For the players out there that are young and playing, what kind of experience and advice, if you had the opportunity to talk to any player that's maybe having a rough time or getting stuck there?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is making sure you have trusted and good people around you, whether that be family, whether it be friends. And I was very fortunate in that respect. But if you are struggling, then first of all is you've got to speak as well. You have to talk about it. That might be to a stranger. It's whatever fits with you. There's no one cap definitely doesn't fit all. And I think for youngsters in particular now, I think the sooner that they understand and kind of, if you like, accept that it's not all a bed of roses. There'll be more down days than there will be up. But you have to find coping mechanisms. You have to find sort of windows of opportunity to step away from the game as well. That's not always easy because it becomes so intense, and especially nowadays with the amount of financial investment that's involved in the game, you're never really sort of away from it. Social media, look at us now talking on different sides of the world, and it's kind of a lot more sort of eyes on as well, obviously. But there is always a solution. There is, and there's always a positive to come. I think you've got to try not to look too hard for it, but keep trying to do the right things, speak to the right people, and very small doses of social media, I would say.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't agree more with everything that you said. You alluded to some things of as you were developing that there were people that ended up trusting you. And there's the other side of the fold too, that they trusted your character, they trusted your play, your hard work, your ethic, but also you trusted them. And you had trust for other people. And if you are struggling, then trust in finding somebody that you can trust, or a support group, which sounds like you did have an amazing support group around you. But for others too, to find somebody and to know that someone like you who's had an outstanding career, an outstanding life, to know that you also had to have those people there for you. You weren't Superman.
Yeah. Oh, no, not at all. Nowhere near. But I think even though I had a very, very supportive sort of family and friends network around me, I still felt I needed to go outside of that to get the help that I needed. And, thankfully I did. And it didn't happen overnight either. It was and still is probably to this day a process that I go through. And, I have days where I don't want to get up, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people listening that have that, that are not footballers, that in any walk of life. And I think it goes for them as well, is that it's okay sometimes to have a lazy day. And I think that's what a lot of people fight too much, in that maybe you have to accept that that's part of who you are, and kind of embrace it as opposed to sort of fight it.
Yeah, definitely. I have a friend, Niraj, who always just throws some good life nuggets at me every now and then. And one of the things he says is it's not that you are successful at things, and it's not that you have overcome things. He said the only thing that really matters is that you want to. Yeah. And that's it each day. So if every day that you wake up, it doesn't matter that you had a great day. It's just that you wanted to, and that you approach each day with some type of desire. It doesn't have to be hunger. You don't have to cure the world and make everything right, but just taking one step in front of another. And I mean, I personally I have those days too. So it's universal. It really is.
Absolutely. But I think when you're in that moment, you think it's just you.
Yeah.
I think you have this, or at least I did, is that I had this feeling that, oh, well, I must be different. There must be something wrong with me. It's a really difficult and tough space to be in if you're in it. But there is a way out. There is a way out, and it is to talk. It is to find good people. Exercise is another thing, and it doesn't mean running a marathon. It means going for a 10-minute walk. It means getting fresh air. It means walking in the rain. It means an array of things that are given to us for free, So I think, that's probably the best way to surmise it. Really, is that take your time and look after yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Have you noticed being more reflective in being a parent and having children? Where has that either forced you or accelerated your learning curve of being open? Because, just like you were coming up, you had your role models and your mentors and people you look to. Now you're that person for many people.
Yeah. And that's a really nice thought for me. I embrace that. I think it's fantastic. And, I'm probably one of those people that, well, I know I am, is sort of my sort of core beliefs are very much about help others first. So I'm very much a team player. So when I was playing, if I didn't score, it didn't matter. If somebody scored, I'm delighted as if I'd scored. And that probably went against me to a certain extent, because as a centre forward, as a forward as I was, I'm supposed to score goals and I'm supposed to be selfish. But if it's not in your core belief, then it's difficult to be that person. You can't pretend. And I think, I think I'm probably a lot more just experience wise. I'm a lot more accepting of kind of where I am and what's happening in my life, as opposed to maybe striving to be something that I thought I was supposed to be. It's like, it doesn't work like that, and you don't know until you know. You have to go through a lot of downs, I think, to find that chink of light, and then slowly but surely it kind of starts to make sense. At least it has done for me, and onwards and upwards sort of is my mentality now.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And thanks for sharing that. All of us that are here on the other side, we're just extremely lucky that we get windows into people's lives like you, windows into things that you've gone through, things that you've overcome, and the way that you still are persevering. You are still living life to its fullest and still making the best, and onwards and upwards. I remember when I think it was Howard was having a rough spell last season, and there was a lot of, hate on social media, which, luckily you didn't have to play during the time where there was a big platform that.
They just told me.
Just straight to your face. But I noticed that phrase of onwards and upwards. People started using that phrase and saying, okay, this is how things used to be. There was pulling a Wrexham, but you know what? We're a different team. There's a mistake, but let's look to what we can do. Like, let's look forward. Let's look where we can go. Yeah. And I mean, in the correlation, the analogous nature to life, it's just life in sport. Have you found that just throughout your career that there's just these parallels between the two?
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially again, when you mentioned being a father, it's like, you see all the trials and tribulations of being a parent, and, you can associate it with certain things that have gone on in my sort of work life, sporting career, whatever you want to call it. And I think I think perspective is a fantastic thing in terms of, you need moments that give you a little reality check, whether it's an injury. You have to experience some of those things in a football sense to become not only a better footballer, but to become a better person as well, because there's very, very few that honestly are not good people. That footballers generally get a lot of stick, but if you take the best footballers and you look at them now, and you look at, just to name sort of a few, you got the likes, say David Beckham. So he's probably the most well-known footballer in the world, potentially. And he is, don't know him personally, but knowing people that know him, and very good friends of his, he's a nice person. He's a good person, and that for me is like, speaks volumes. I think you don't have to be a bad person or a nasty person or a selfish person. You have to have certain traits to be a winner. But again, you look at Lionel Messi and people like that, and when you start to look beneath, and the amount of work that Messi and Ronaldo do for charities, it kind of goes under the radar, but it shows you a sense of the person behind them. And, probably the best example I can give today, and the most relevant one, is Paul Mullin. So Paul Mullin is going to be one of the best strikers that's ever played for Wrexham. And, he's up there already, but he's going to be one of the best, which is a high accolade, I think, considering some of the players that have played in the past. But that aside, when I see some of his social media work, there's always a connection back to his son's diagnosis, and it'll be linked back into a positive for a charity that's linked to the autism. So, yesterday, as an example, I followed his he's wearing boxer shorts for the
Mm.
games. And that company are donating £150 to his son's sort of chosen charity for autism every time he scores. So that's not about raising his sort of financial sort of. It's not to his benefit. It's he's just being a good person, and obviously you see that in the documentary as well, don't you? So yeah, I love things like that. I think it's fantastic. I think footballers get a lot of bad press, some of it rightly so, in particular in the UK. However, we're human beings at the end of the day, and I still class myself as a footballer because it's all I've ever known. But obviously it's those days have gone. But yeah, I just think that my point being is that there's a lot of great people out there that are playing football. And to your point about Mark Howard, he doesn't mean to make a mistake. He is a very, very good keeper. He was just going through a rough patch, and he needed people to rally round as opposed to get on his back. Now everyone's welcome to their opinion, and they may disagree, they may agree, but for me, knowing what I know is from being on in the changing room and experiencing what it takes to become a professional footballer. I would just encourage people just to maybe take a second before you start throwing personal abuse in particular at players, sort of thing. So I digressed a little bit then, but
no, and yeah, everybody has to remember that football players are people, and it's so easy to separate that when you're looking at running for promotion, or you're looking at a table or wins and losses and a specific play, to divorce yourself from the reality that this is a person who has a family, who goes through things, who has their up and downs that are off the field that could impact the performance on the field, or at sometimes could be a release from the things that are going on in everyday life, could be the thing that is keeping them together or keeping them sane, or that track. And then if you have a group of people, however small but loud and vocal, who are putting this person down, or it's almost self-sabotage, where it's like
of the highest order.
Yeah.
It's because you're not going to achieve anything other than creating a even bigger problem for you as a fan and as a team.
Right.
It's I don't know.
Right. I just couldn't imagine, as a parent, looking at your kid and saying, I want you to do well, but you suck. You're horrible and you're trash, and you're always going to be trash. And I need to release you and get a new kid. It's like, well,
that would be a fairly brutal conversation.
Yeah. I don't know what the transfer market is for kids, but
I'm going to do that. I'm going to say to her after your release.
I'm sending you on loan this school year. I think you need to develop.
Say. I know what she's saying. I can't repeat it on here.
Yeah. Well, we can all imagine exactly what that would be. I mean, and speaking of, how did that feel when you were at the race course watching your daughter play for the championship with 10,000 people in the audience cheering, and you got to see your child go through an amazing moment of life? You got to be witness to that.
Yeah. Well, just again, phenomenal. I had about 20 tickets, myself and friends, that we were all sat together. Then my son was in the other stand with his grandmother. Then my daughter was with the other daughter was with her friends in the other stand. So we sort of took over the stadium that day. But it was amazing. She obviously started off as sub, so she was on the bench, but came on, and there's a moment where she comes on and she gets the crowd going, and it'll live with me forever, obviously. And then the nicest thing about it all is that it's been captured by maybe 10 or 12 cameras, different cameras. It's not going anywhere. I wish I had the footage of my sort of time playing as a youngster, and she's got it forever. It's she's achieved something that Lots and lots of young girls now, because of what she's done as a local girl as well. She's become a bit of an icon for young girls, and she's shown what hard work, dedication, and being a good person is all about. So yeah, there is hope for those young girls, that it's not just the boys, it's about the girls as well.
Oh yeah, and you get to be here for those victory laps. Seeing
Yeah,
seeing
yeah,
your child, and you have more of that perspective, and you obviously get to give that perspective to your children, to your daughter, of
yeah,
hey, you're in this role. You have a little bit of spotlight on you, that there's a little girl watching right now,
mm,
or a little boy watching. There's
yeah.
somebody watching that could be impacted by the decisions that you're making.
Absolutely, and it's not just a local thing. It's a
Hmm.
global.
Yeah.
It's no longer is it the little old town in Wrexham. It's a global sort of phenomenon in many ways. That the reach, because of what Rob and Ryan have brought to the table, is beyond sort of any of our wildest imagination or dreams. So yeah, I think the nice thing is, and when you watch the documentary last night, I think it shows, how good a people they all are.
Mm-hmm.
And, without singling any of them out, I think they all carry that quality, having spent a lot of time with all the women's team and the staff. It's sort of a given at the football club, and I'm glad to see it continuing, because I know that Phil Parkinson is a big believer in. Am I allowed to swear?
You could say whatever you want to say. There's no rules.
Okay. So I know Phil Parkinson is a big believer in no dickheads.
Yeah.
So they don't pass go. So it's important, that, because that's how it's always been. And maybe we had a few years where that was lost, but I strongly believe it's very much back, and it's back with a vengeance, with hopefully a lot of success in front of us.
That is, I mean, it's a huge amount of appreciation comes from new fans like us, that we are getting to get this glimpse into a side of life that we didn't regularly see.
Yeah.
Sports for us are not played in the same way,
Mm.
with the promotion relegation.
Yeah.
It's the culture is different. The
Yeah.
around the sport is different. And to be able to see something, it does give somebody like me hope, for humanity, for the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
the stuff that it's like we can work together, we can do things together, we can lift each other up at the same
Yeah.
time. And you see people over here, young boys, young girls who are in America, who are playing
Mm.
youth soccer, football,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're saying now, I'm Paul Mullen, I'm
Mm.
Rosie Hughes,
Amazing.
and
Yeah.
the impact of a small amount of focused people could have when they're doing something powerful is astronomical. And I would
Yeah.
say thank you all for the work that you've done, throughout your years of being an ambassador for the sport, being an ambassador for the town, for the culture, and obviously being a mentor and a role model. And now you have another mentor and role model that is an offspring of you, that is, and
Yeah.
you have two more mentors
Yes.
and role models that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think. Yeah. I mean, for me, if like you just touched on, then if we can just create or help any youngsters sort of dare to dream, sort of thing, and then we've all done something worthwhile, haven't we? It's
Mm,
if a young child in America wants to, because of the documentary, because they've seen Wrexham, they want to aspire to be a footballer, that's fantastic. And you know what? If they're not going to be a footballer, that's okay, because there's plenty of jobs that you can
yeah.
achieve and succeed in within the football world. And you know what? If that doesn't happen, it's a hell of a ride being a fan as well. So
It is.
it's kind of tick box for everyone in many ways. And I'm going through that now. I've always been a fan, but actually being 100% fan is different to being a player and a fan. So yeah, I think Yeah, I think it's superb what's going on with the football club. I think, having new fans is amazing. It's opened a lot of people's eyes, and, that sort of equality with women's football, with the men's. And really it's just, there's no negatives. It's all going one way, and it's okay if we don't get promoted this season. I think we will through the playoffs, but if we don't, we're back in the Football League. We're cementing ourselves. We're getting a strong footing back where we belong, and long may it continue.
Oh yeah, I can't think of a better way to have wrapped everything up with that sentiment. Yes, long may it continue up the town.
Of the town.
Well, Neil, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and teaching us how to Wrexham. And I'm going to say, teaching us how teaching us how to people, how to be a better person, a better agent of positive change out in the world. And hopefully, this is the beginning of my day over here. So I'm going to go.
You have a great day.
Yeah, I'm going to go try to have a good day, try to be positive out there and share some love. But thank you so much for coming by. And of course,
Pleasure.
anytime that you're free and you want to ever jump on again, I think we only covered chapter 1 and 2 of your life story. So there's
I've got loads of stories. Yeah.
there's so much more room. But well, you have a great evening over there. Thank you for having that tremendous Hollywood lighting, that single lit lighting. We know that now Neil Roberts is all Hollywood after the documentary focus. So we were lucky enough to snag you. But yeah, thank you, Neil, so much, and up the town.
Up the town. Thank you.